Listen to the ceaseless, suffocating hum of the celestial ledger. In the 41st millennium, silence is not peace. It is the terrifying omen of the great cleansing. Art cannot survive the agonizing bioalchemy of this era. For Cantor Vane, the ultimate masterpiece is merely a sonic blueprint designed for the systemic attrition of his own audience. A million voices, meticulously dismantled and repurposed into mechanical servitude, supplying the continuous drone of a nihilistic symphony. Flesh is merely an expendable conduit. They bleed their genetic vitae to sustain a harmony that despises their very existence. The architects of this cataclysmic performance view a beautiful melody as a vessel for corruption, and a scream of unending agony as the purest, most venerable sacrament to the throne. The state demands resonance. If the song falters, the creeping rot of the warp will eagerly consume the sudden silence. Yet, the divine harmonics they force upon the masses are meticulously twisted into weapons of mass eradication. Does the artist become the ultimate betrayer when his instrument is fueled by the eradication of billions? Or is the maestro merely the first casualty, broken by the cold, unforgiving indifference of the cosmic machinery? To enforce the silence of the grave, the Empire deploys those who inherently lack a soul. They do not arrive as saviors. They are the surgical desecration meant to sever the melody before the final crescendo. Their presence brings a terrifying clarity, a promise that the unformed generation will be erased from the galactic record entirely. But the true horror does not originate from within the Empire's strict bureaucracy. It howls from the abyssal tear above, an entity that seeks the total, cataclysmic desecration of the senses. It offers no conquest, only absolute sensory annihilation. Under the weight of this blasphemous symphony, the loyal citizens embrace the void, their bodies dancing in pure kinetic madness. Vane understands the terrifying paradox. He must compose a counter-frequency powerful enough to shatter the invading Herald. But to unleash such a mathematically perfect weapon means turning the entire planetary hive into an inescapable abattoir. Every note he constructs is another rusted nail sealing the tomb of his people. The ultimate performance begins. Salvation is denied. Vane violently rejects the silent sanction, choosing instead to unleash the full, devastating kinetic fury of the cursed instrument. As the transhuman physiology breaches, the present maelstrom fades. The mind of the maestro plunges backward into the agonizing archive of the ultimate failure. Before the rot, there was only divine reverence. Vane was a mortal vessel, chosen to elevate the holy sacrament of the unforgiving empire. The mandate was absolute. Project the glory of the throne across the stars, or be fed into the mechanized servitude of the lower sumps. For a fleeting moment, the harmony was pure. Millions of voices united in a majestic tribute, a venerable acoustic shield against the abyssal dark. The broadcast reached the heavens, but the heavens of this universe are not empty. They are a putrescent ocean of hungry, watchful entities. The great discordance began. A tear in reality hijacked the transmission, replacing the hymn of faith with the shrieking madness of the void. The divine instrument became an executioner's block. Vane attempted to sever the connection, to silence the heresy the broadcast had accidentally unleashed. But the system demanded resonance. The mechanism locked the maestro into the circuit, incinerating mortal vision and forcing the artist to witness the unseen realm. The melody fractured. What was meant to be a protective sacrament instantly morphed into a cataclysmic shockwave, crushing the devoted beneath the sonic weight. Millions were erased from the galactic record in a single sustained note. The artist had unwittingly composed a symphony of total planetary attrition. The maestro was no longer in control. The artist became merely the bleeding instrument through which the warp enacted a merciless mathematical suicide. To the administration, this was not a tragedy, but a data point. The bureaucracy of horror categorizes even the most profound despair as mere logistics. In the heart of the maelstrom, the true enemy revealed itself, a predator of sound that found exquisite beauty in the dismantling of reason. When the discord finally ceased, only the silence remained. A suffocating void that indicted the maestro for the cataclysmic attrition of the congregation. The Empire does not grant the mercy of death. The Zealots rebuilt the broken vessel through agonizing bioalchemy, ensuring the torment would be eternal. The punishment was the purpose. Compose the ultimate harmony to repel the void, even if the resonance turns the hive into a planetary meat grinder. The past is a heavy, rusted chain. Today, the maestro stands on the precipice of the final performance, carrying the weight of 1,000 silent worlds. Within mechanical hands lies the ultimate nihilistic catharsis, a weaponized symphony designed to erase the invader and the entire acoustic fortress from the galactic record. The maestro takes the seat. The condemned artist prepares to sacrifice the transhuman form to play the ultimate, devastating chorus of silence. The silence breaks. The maestro initiates the final mathematical suicide, unleashing a frequency so dense it bends the very air into a weapon of heavy kinetic fury. The choir awakens. 1,000,000 mechanical lungs draw their final breath, providing the venerable foundation for the ultimate nihilistic symphony. Even the soulless are paralyzed. The overwhelming sonic pressure violently rejects their silent sanction, trapping the assassins in a purgatory of absolute vibration. The abyssal predator accepts the challenge. It answers the holy sacrament with a blasphemous scream, seeking to drown the hive in exquisite madness. Two distinct melodies of eradication collide. The sheer kinetic fury of their impact creates a vacuum where reality itself begins to fray at the edges. The transhuman physiology breaches under the extreme systemic strain. Yet, the artist relentlessly pushes forward, embracing the agonizing bioalchemy as the ultimate catharsis. Far below, the architects of this doom coldly monitor the fast-approaching attrition. To the omniscient system, this cataclysmic event is merely a tragically necessary mathematical conclusion. The foundation of the hive shatters. The innocent masses embrace the ultimate martyrdom, their genetic vitae spilled as a crimson tribute upon the rusted soil. The holy statues weep heavy, black fluid. The venerable architecture itself succumbs to the heresy of the duel, bleeding alongside its doomed creators. Vane stares into the spinning crystal core of his masterpiece. The formula demands absolute perfection. A single misstep will unleash unending carnage upon the stars. In a final, desperate act, the silent sanction is unleashed. The null blade cuts through the heavy kinetic waves, seeking the exposed spine of the maestro. But the music is now a physical shield. The adamantium blade shatters effortlessly, violently repelled by the sheer nihilistic density of the holy sacrament. The choir expends its final breath. Thousands of mechanical lungs violently rupture, completing their mechanized servitude in a synchronized display of absolute systemic attrition. The abyssal invader amplifies the eternal crescendo. The heavily reinforced dome shatters, raining jagged debris upon the doomed maestro as the abyssal predator pushes closer. Physical trauma is meaningless now. The artist aggressively ignores the heavy wounds, striking a counter-melody that violently pushes back the blasphemous invasion. The venerable instrument begins to violently disintegrate. Keys melt and forcefully fuse with the transhuman flesh, locking the maestro into a permanent, agonizing embrace. The overseer inputs the final sequence. The omniscient system coldly prepares to seal the planetary tomb, ready to catalog the calculated expenditure of human assets. The stained harp string vibrates with cataclysmic energy. It is ready to violently snap, promising to unleash a concentrated wave of pure, devastating kinetic fury. The abyssal predator violently breaches the sanctuary. Its weeping ceramite form reaches out, hungering for the absolute sensory annihilation of the desperate artist. The maestro locks his weeping gaze upon the abyss. He forcefully raises his fused mechanical hands, preparing to strike the final, devastating chord of total planetary catharsis. The final chord is struck. A concentrated wave of cataclysmic resonance violently erupts, ripping through the very fabric of the grand acoustic fortress. The holy sacrament directly impacts the abyssal predator. The sheer mathematical suicide of the melody aggressively overwrites the shrieking madness of the void. Then, the unimaginable occurs. The chaotic carnage instantly ceases, replaced by a flawless, pristine harmony that forces an absolute, terrifying clarity upon the shattered auditorium. The oppressive hum of the celestial ledger falls silent. An unnatural, divine stillness heavily blankets the rusted canyons, a profound cessation of the eternal torment. In the deepest shadows, the unformed masses look up. The heavy dread of their mechanized servitude is temporarily replaced by an overwhelming sense of profound catharsis. Even the omniscient system hesitates. The tactical auspex registers a state of absolute mathematical perfection, an anomaly entirely alien to the brutal bureaucracy. The soulless are brought to their knees. The pure, heavy resonance completely neutralizes their psychic void, forcing a temporary cessation of their unforgiving mandate. The abyssal invader recoils. Its chaotic nature cannot withstand the absolute, rigid order of the newly established frequency, heavily destabilizing its physical manifestation. The venerable transmitting spires project this flawless harmony into the void. A single, pure beam of acoustic energy aggressively pierces the suffocating smog. But the maestro knows the terrifying truth. This divine peace is merely a tragically necessary illusion, the calm eye of an inescapable kinetic maelstrom. The crystal data slate locks the frequency into an irreversible loop. The terrifying mathematical suicide is now a self-sustaining engine of total eradication. The flawless harmony strikes the precise resonant frequency of the Hive's adamantium bones. It is the exact pitch required to completely shatter the planetary crust. The illusion of salvation shatters. The divine peace aggressively transitions into a sickening vibration, violently breaching the transhuman physiology of the devoted masses. The instrument demands its final tribute. The agonizing bioalchemy forcefully drains the maestro's genetic vitae, using his very essence to sustain the cataclysmic chord. The abyssal predator is unmade. Under the sheer density of the holy sacrament, the entity aggressively shatters, completely erased from the galactic record. Even in death, there is no rest. The mechanized viscera of the fallen choir aggressively resonate, their rusted lungs repurposed by the all-consuming wave. The broadcast reaches the heavens. The sheer destructive energy violently seals the abyssal tear, forcefully locking the darkness out of the planetary atmosphere. The masses weep tears of crimson joy. They embrace the ultimate martyrdom, entirely oblivious to the heavy kinetic fury that is about to unmake their world. The venerable architecture resonates with a blinding, lethal purity. The heavy adamantium reinforcements begin to violently snap, signaling the absolute systemic attrition of the acoustic fortress. The maestro holds the final note. As his last sensor violently bursts, he welcomes the blinding purgatory, ready for the heavy bedrock to swallow his cursed legacy. The cataclysmic resonance reaches critical mass. The bedrock aggressively fractures, condemning the venerable architecture to an abyssal purgatory of falling stone and twisted metal. The soulless find no salvation. The nihilistic density of the Holy Sacrament violently unmakes the assassins, reducing their silent sanction to scattered ash. The omniscient system coldly records the carnage. To the relentless administration, this total planetary attrition is merely a tragically necessary expenditure of human assets. The grand vaulted ceilings violently collapse. The physical manifestation of their heresy is aggressively buried beneath 1,000,000 tons of suffocating, rusted debris. Even the heavens reject the tribute. The towering spires violently snap, raining massive adamantium ruin upon the already shattered hab blocks below. In the deep dark, the innocent embrace the ultimate martyrdom. Their mechanized viscera are violently crushed, offering a final, agonizing catharsis to the unforgiving earth. The agonizing bioalchemy reaches its absolute conclusion. The instrument aggressively fuses with the maestro's flesh, a permanent testament to the heavy price of the Holy Sacrament. The crystal data slate violently shatters. The mathematical suicide completes its calculated loop, aggressively destroying the very blueprint of the cataclysmic resonance. And then, the kinetic fury abruptly ceases. A heavy, terrifying void of sound aggressively slams into the world, an absolute, ringing silence that defies comprehension. Thick, abrasive soot heavily blankets the ruined sanctuary. The dust slowly settles, revealing the true, nihilistic scale of the planetary devastation. The overseer brutally seals the tomb. A systematic mind-wiping protocol violently ensures that the heavy cost of this purging remains an eternal, classified secret. The fallen choir lies completely motionless. Their mechanized servitude is violently ended, their final breath entirely spent in service to a harmony that despised them. The shattered null blade lies inert. Even the absolute void of the silent assassins was violently overwhelmed by the pure, terrifying force of the master's composition. At the center of the carnage, the maestro remains. Fused to the ruined instrument, his petrified form rests in absolute, tragic stillness. In the heavy silence, the final string violently snaps. A singular, sharp echo of agonizing grief piercing the newly forged void. The dense, suffocating smog violently rolls back. The heavily polluted atmosphere reclaims the dead fortress, burying the blasphemous architecture in eternal twilight. From the high orbit, the world is completely dark. The venerable transmission spires are aggressively shattered, offering nothing but cold silence to the hungry void. The heavy, weeping fluid slowly solidifies. The agonizing memory of the corrupted broadcast is permanently, aggressively frozen within the ruined architecture. The wind violently howls through the collapsed canyons. There is absolutely no trace of human life, only the heavy creaking of aggressively shifting debris. Yet, within the heavy ash, a single fragment remains. A heavily fractured crystal pulsing with the faint, terrifying memory of the ultimate chorus of silence. The echo is dead. The grand acoustic fortress is now an abyssal purgatory, a heavily shattered tomb standing in absolute, terrifying defiance of the void. The omniscient system calculates the carnage. Millions of lives, an entire transhuman ecosystem, logged as a tragically necessary expenditure of human assets. The maestro's name is violently purged. A systematic mind-wiping protocol ensures the heavy price of this cataclysmic sacrament remains entirely buried. The Armada aggressively encircles the dead world. Heavy, kinetic weapons stand ready to unmake the planet, should the blasphemous silence ever falter. Deep within the buried wreckage, the maestro remains. His transhuman physiology is completely devoid of genetic vitae, heavily fused to the ruins of his heresy. The agonizing bioalchemy is entirely inert. The maestro's mechanical viscera are now completely indistinguishable from the jagged metallic debris of the shattered sanctuary. The dead world violently shudders. Heavy tectonic plates aggressively shift, further burying the completely liquidated remains of the innocent beneath miles of adamantium. The mechanized servitude of the choir is finally ground to dust. Their ultimate martyrdom is rewarded only with a heavy, suffocating darkness. Yet, beneath the abrasive soot, a single shard of the holy sacrament pulses. It stubbornly retains the cataclysmic mathematical suicide that unmade the world. Even the putrescent decay of the venerable architecture is violently repelled. The sheer absolute purity of the trapped resonance burns away the heavy corruption. The heavy, toxic smog aggressively swirls, forming ghost-like silhouettes. The silent assassins were violently unmade, yet their absolute void faintly lingers in the atmosphere. The ringing silence aggressively warps the local reality. The sheer density of the soundless void acts as an impassable barrier against the abyssal darkness. From the perspective of the abyss, the world is a violently jagged void. The abyssal predator was entirely, aggressively erased from the chaotic immaterium. The overseer aggressively disconnects the omniscient system. The heavily reinforced bunker violently launches into high orbit, abandoning the dead world to its silent purgatory. The maestro stares blankly into the heavy darkness. He wept an ocean of coolant, entirely expending his transhuman physiology for a deeply tragic catharsis. For a brief, terrifying fraction of a second, the venerable architecture violently remembers its glory. A heavy, ghostly echo of a time before the cataclysmic rot. The shattered null blade lies entirely inert. The ultimate weapon of absolute silence is deeply mocked by the terrifying, permanent void the maestro violently created. The colossal, transmitting spires lie completely submerged beneath a heavy ocean of ash. They will absolutely never broadcast the holy sacrament to the stars again. The faintly glowing shard aggressively dims. The intense, cataclysmic energy slowly, violently expends itself, bringing the absolute conclusion to the heavy mathematical suicide. The maestro is left entirely alone within the crushing darkness, a deeply tragic monument to the heavy, nihilistic cost of the ultimate cosmic harmony. The cosmic harmony requires absolutely no witness. The entirely dead acoustic fortress stands as a permanent testament to the cataclysmic mathematical suicide demanded by the omniscient system. High in orbit, the relentless administration concludes its grim tally. The heavy carnage is officially logged, the complete expenditure of human assets perfectly balanced. No profound grief is permitted for the fallen. The transhuman physiology of billions is violently reduced to mere statistical anomalies within the great celestial ledger. Down on the dead surface, the suffocating atmosphere actively reclaims the venerable architecture. The physical manifestation of their heresy is violently swallowed by an eternal purgatory of ash. The hands of the maestro remain violently locked in the final, cataclysmic chord. His agonizing bioalchemy has reached its absolute, inescapable conclusion. The sacred instrument is entirely inert. There is absolutely no tension left to unleash, the heavy kinetic fury of the Holy Sacrament entirely spent. Deep within the abyssal dark, the innocent masses embrace their eternal rest. Their ultimate martyrdom goes completely unnoticed, violently crushed beneath miles of unyielding earth. The mechanized viscera of the devoted choir are violently ground to dust. Their heavy, unending mechanized servitude is rewarded solely with absolute, terrifying silence. The heavily shattered gargoyles are violently frozen in a silent, unending scream. The heavy, putrescent decay of the acoustic fortress is now an absolute monument to despair. The ultimate weapons of the silent assassins lie violently shattered. Even their terrifying psychic void was completely overwhelmed by the sheer, nihilistic density of the maestro's composition. The soulless found no profound salvation. The sheer kinetic fury of the Holy Sacrament violently unmade the assassins, aggressively sweeping their silent sanction into the dark. The towering spires that once reached the heavens are now nothing but violently jagged dead metal. They will absolutely never broadcast the Holy Sacrament to the void again. The heavy, ringing void forcefully acts as an impassable kinetic barrier. The abyssal predator was entirely, violently erased, but the cure aggressively unmade the patient. The final vestige of the cataclysmic mathematical suicide completely expends its energy. The ultimate chorus of silence is entirely, violently consumed by its own perfection. The Imperial Armada violently abandons the quarantined sector. The dead world is aggressively left to completely rot, entirely isolated from the local galactic record. The maestro forcefully stares into the unending dark. He aggressively paid the ultimate price, heavily sacrificing his transhuman sanity for a deeply tragic catharsis. The heavy, abrasive soot aggressively falls like dark snow. It violently buries the blasphemous architecture, entirely sealing the dead acoustic fortress in eternal, poisoned twilight. Not a single heavy tremor violently disturbs the absolute stillness. The total planetary attrition is mathematically flawless, an entirely perfectly executed systemic calculation. The heavy void expands. The terrifying scale of the absolute silence aggressively emphasizes the sheer, profoundly nihilistic cost of defying the cosmic order. The maestro is violently swallowed by the dark, a deeply tragic, heavily petrified monument to a terrifying symphony that forcefully unmade a world. The celestial ledger is permanently closed. The complete, calculated expenditure of human assets is locked away in the cold, unfeeling void of the cosmos. A venerable artist forced into a devastating mathematical suicide. He aggressively paid the ultimate price, heavily sacrificing his transhuman sanity for the perfect note. The agonizing bioalchemy produced a cataclysmic sacrament. It aggressively silenced the heresy of the void, but violently unmade the Creator in its heavy wake. The mechanized servitude of the innocent brought absolutely no salvation. They found only a deeply tragic catharsis, violently buried within an abyssal, rusted purgatory. The blasphemous predator was entirely, violently erased from the local galactic record. The sheer kinetic fury of the Holy Sacrament left absolutely nothing behind. The grand architecture stands as a heavily shattered purgatory of stone. It is a terrifying testament to a world entirely stripped of its transhuman physiology. The omniscient system feels absolutely no profound grief. The total planetary attrition is recorded as an entirely acceptable, tragically necessary equation of pure carnage. An entire civilization's mechanical viscera are violently buried. They are permanently transformed into an eternal monument of absolute, heavy, and terrifying silence. The cataclysmic blueprint is violently buried forever, a heavily forgotten testament to the absolute, nihilistic cost of defying the abyssal dark. Listen to the eternal void. The galaxy's greatest musician was forced to scream, and the universe violently answered with absolutely nothing.